Hunting the spooky sika deer is a noble art and quite a challenge. The animal's keen senses and its preference of dense habitats makes it very difficult to hunt. Notice, for instance, how this young stag detects the faint sound of the hunter's clothes. Like all deer, the sika has a strong sense of smell. But this species also has keen eyesight. In addition, the sika has beautiful deep brown antlers with ivory tips. The combination of all these factors makes a set of antlers from a mature sika stag a prized trophy. The hunt is made even more difficult by the fact that the animals almost constantly are moving when not being in dense cover. The two hunters, Torben Lyngsø and Jens Henrik Raffen, have come to southern England to fulfill an old dream of bagging a sika stag. After an exciting hunt this morning, Torben is being picked up by the stalker Peter Stags. Torben came very close to shoot a stag, but in the end, the sika took off. Most estates in southern England concentrate on shoots, and the lesser game are the main concern of the keepers. Many estates, however, have healthy populations of deer as well, and some of the best sika trophies in Europe are found here. While Torben and Peter are having a chat, Jens Henrik is stalking through another part of the forest. Due to the dense vegetation and the sika's keen senses, it is rare, however, to bag a mature stag while stalking. Jane Andrew is a stalker and one of England's leading specialists in sika hunting. Her task is to help Torben fulfill his dream of taking a gold medal sika stag. Late in the afternoon, Jens Henrik has decided to try a stalk through the terrain towards a high seat placed in a clearing in the center of the forest. Suddenly, he spots a movement between the trees. He has spooked a sika, but the animal doesn't seem really frightened, and he might not be alone. As this is the middle of the rut, who knows? As he reaches the clearing, Jens Henrik tries to lure the stag with a special call that imitates the sika's rutting whistle. But even a young sika stag is difficult to lure. Jens Henrik gets so close to the stag that he can see something is wrong. After a few more careful steps, Jens Henrik detects a sudden movement between the fern ahead. He decides to try luring again. This time he is more lucky. The antlers look good through all the fern that the stag is entangled in them while marking his territory. Now Jens Henrik must get into position quickly and be prepared to shoot instantly. The dense vegetation makes any chance a brief one. Although the stag dropped quickly, Jens Henrik keeps himself prepared to shoot again should the need arise. Jens Henrik looks forward to get a closer look at the trophy. As the antlers were all covered with fern, it was difficult to estimate anything except the height of the trophy. It looked like a good stag, but is it really so? Yes, indeed. The stag is a very tall and a handsome 8-pointer. As Peter was working nearby, he heard the shot and soon comes up to congratulate Jens Henrik with his nice trophy.
That's a fine animal.
The experienced stalker determines right away that the trophy is outstanding, and without doubt, it is of record class. Any hunter can be proud of a stag like this, especially when taken during a stalk. The Sika deer was introduced in Europe at the end of the last century. The small deer with its beautiful spotted skin thrived in the deer parks, which many landowners at that time established around their manor houses. This took place in southern England, as well as in Scotland and Ireland. Since then, a number of free-roaming populations have been established, either through deliberate release or escaping animals in a number of countries in Europe and overseas. The species was first described in the West in 1838 by Temminck, the well-known naturalist, who saw the animal during a trip to Japan. Accordingly, it was called Cervus nippon in Latin, meaning Japanese stag. A good many subspecies of Sika are found due to the species' vast distribution. The biggest of the Sika deer are from the Manchuria and China. The stags here can reach a height of 44 inches and a live weight of more than 330 pounds. The smallest of the subspecies are only the size of a roebuck. Here in southern England, the stags are approximately the same size as the larger Japanese subspecies, 40 inches over the shoulder, and a live weight up to approximately 220 pounds. The Sika hind has an alarm signal which resembles the whistle that the stag is making during the rut. Sika are gregarious. During the summer months, the animals are reddish-brown with white spots. When the new coat comes during the fall, the color changes to dark brown and the spots can barely be made out. The rut starts in the beginning of September and will usually last until the end of October. Pregnancy is around 7.5 months and twins are rare. Normally, the calves follow their mother for more than a year. The only animals which the Sika hind and calves can be confused with is the hind and calf of the fallow deer, and this is only during the summer. However, the characteristic and clearly marked black surface of the tail and the two flanking stripes are missing on the Sika. The calves are born between the end of May and early June. Most of the year, the animals are found in dense cover, but when spring turns into summer, you often find them in the open. The combination of warm weather and plenty of food is too tempting. The small family groups often consist of females, young ones, and immature stags. The mature stags are found in small groups, while the older stags normally are solitary during the summer. At this time of the year, one can find them in the open all morning. Although hinds and calves of sika and fallow deer can be mistaken, there is no doubt when it comes to the stags, not even when they are in velvet. A mature fallow deer has palmated antlers, contrary to the branched antlers of the sika. If a sika develops abnormal antlers, which is more than 8 points, the extra points will normally be placed in the top of the antler. This widening of the antler might look like a tendency towards palmation, but it will never come to the same degree as in the antlers of a fallow deer. As indicated by the shape of the antlers, the sika is much closer related to the red deer, and in some areas, interbreeding is quite common. Normally, interbreeding only takes place where sika wanders into areas dominated by red deer. Where both species are numerous, crossbreeding does not occur. A crossbred stag will never attain the red stag's characteristic crown on top of the antlers, not even in the most abnormal cases. Although sika and fallow deer often live in the same area and even in the same herds, the two species never interbreed. The genetic differences are simply too great. This is the reason why many deer parks have both species. As most free-roaming populations of these deer come from escaping animals, both species often occur in the same area. There is a pronounced difference in size of sika deer, depending on age and sex. While the antlers are growing, the velvet-clad antlers are sensitive and vulnerable, and the stags prefer the open in order not to have them hit by branches. But as soon as the antlers hardens, one will never find a stag far away from dense cover. In this period, the stags mark their territory with their preorbital glands, while the antlers are frayed eagerly upon small trees. The stag's territory can be quite large. A large and dominating stag will often rule over several hectares. The territory is marked and patrolled endlessly in order to keep other stags out. The sika is polygamous, and the stags will try to attract and keep as many hinds as possible in his territory. The stags fight vigorously over the hinds. Like in many species of deer, the neck of the sika stag swells up during the rut in order to give the animal a more powerful appearance. The object is to make the stag look more frightening to his rivals. At the same time, the coat of hair is longer than in summer, which adds further to this effect. Due to their aggressiveness towards competitors, the stags are more inquisitive during the rut, and if in doubt about what they have in front of them, they will often come closer to investigate whether another stag could be hiding between the trees. By using its hooves and antlers, the stags scrape a number of wallows where the ground is wet. The stag will urinate in the mud and wallow there. In addition, it will frequently ejaculate upon the thick layer of hair under the stomach. Neither a sika hind or a human being will accordingly be in doubt whether the stag is in rut or not, but their opinion of the fragrance's quality might be rather different. During the entire rutting season, the stag will fray upon small trees and bushes in order to mark his territory. The juice of the trees and the mud from the wallowing gives the antlers their color, and only the tip of the antlers remain ivory white. Between the dominating stag's territories, one will often find young stags that are not yet strong enough to attract and defend any hinds. After his lucky stalk, Jens Henrik decides to have another try. He seems to be a lucky man. Another chance arises during the very first stalk. He suddenly spots a good 8-pointer. But unfortunately, the hunt ends like most seeker hunts. The dense vegetation makes it necessary to get quite close to the animals in order to see them, and the curiosity of an old seeker stag is quickly satisfied. But this is a substantial part of the charms of seeker hunting. Quitters do not get many chances of killing a mature seeker stag. The best time to hunt is during the rut, which begins in the last half of September and continues through October. The presence of the stags and their territories are revealed by their wallowing in the mud. The humid weather conditions in the fall make the air hazy, which in combination with the tall vegetation makes the hunt even more difficult. The hunter must show utmost caution. Jens Henrik has reached the clearing where the high seat is placed. Due to the tall vegetation, the high seat is necessary in order to get a clear shot. While he is waiting for deer, Jens Henrik enjoys watching the rich wildlife of the area. Jens Henrik is very carefully scanning the area with his binoculars, as one can only hope to see a part of the animal between the dense cover of bracken. But suddenly he can hear the characteristic whistle of a seeker stag in the rut. Will the stag come out into the open? The antlers of a mighty seeker suddenly appears in a glimpse between the trees. The stag's left antler is abnormal and has many more points than the usual 4, a unique trophy. Unfortunately, the stag disappears without offering any chance of a shot. The question now is whether it has disappeared for good or whether it will come into view again. All Jens Henrik can do is to wait and hope. Soon the stag reappears. Will the tall fern permit a clear shot? Although the stag dropped instantly, Jens Henrik checks it with his binoculars to see if it still moves. When he finally is convinced that the stag is dead, he walks down to it, full of anticipation. The stag was killed instantly, as expected. Not until now did Jens Henrik realize how lucky he has been. Whereas Sika stags normally only grow 8 points, this animal has no less than 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 points. In addition to their heavy antlers, many of the points are very long and have beautifully ivory-colored tips. Jens Henrik has taken quite an exceptional trophy of a size that most hunters will never see, let alone have a chance to bag. Tall, heavy antlers, a wide spread, and a very beautiful color. This is a day that Jens Henrik will never forget. Like in all deer species, the Sika's antlers undergo a development throughout the animal's life. A typical Sika stag will have up to 4 points at each antler. Normally they start as spike stags and continue the next year as 6-pointers, before they become 8-pointers the succeeding years. But not until the stag is several years old will the antlers become heavy and have the length that makes the trophy excellent. The trophy size of the Sika is closely related to the animal's weight. The greater the body weight an animal reaches, the greater the potential of developing outstanding trophies. Accordingly, one will normally find the best trophies among animals that have easy access to a good diet. The length of the antlers of a mature Sika varies greatly between the subspecies. The smallest East Asian subspecies will only grow antlers that are 12 inches long, while the Manchurian Sika has antlers exceeding 34 inches in length. Some of the best Sika trophies of Europe are found in England. The mild climate and the rich vegetation constitutes an ideal habitat for the animals, which also can be seen from the size of the trophies. Especially in southern England, where the country mostly consists of forest and fields surrounded by large hedges, it is possible to find really outstanding Sika heads. The introduction of Sika deer around the world has taken place without any sort of control. Japanese, Manchurian, and Chinese Sika deer have been introduced. In areas where several subspecies have been present, they most likely have interbred. Accordingly, it can be difficult to determine precisely which kind of Sika is at hand. In Europe, however, the Japanese Sika is predominant. For this reason, the trophies of Sika have been divided into 2 main groups. One group contains the Japanese subspecies of Sika, while the Sikas from the mainland constitute the other group. If the nose bone from a Sika exceeds 3.5 inches, it is fairly certain that the animal originates from the mainland. If the nose bone exceeds 4.5 inches, it is probably a cross between a Sika and a red deer. In order to fulfill his old dream of collecting a truly extraordinary sika head, Torben Lyngsø has joined Jane Andrew. They're heading towards an area where the territories of several big stags meet. The hunters stalk their way to a high seat. Jane's dog is only brought along in case a stag is wounded. On their way to the forest, the hunters carefully check whether any deer is feeding along the edge. The stalk down to the high seat is crucial. If the hunters do not make it to the high seat without spooking any deer, their hours of waiting here will often be in vain. In order to qualify for a medal, a British seeker must reach 220 points for bronze, 235 points for silver, and 250 points for gold. But qualifying for a medal or not, the antlers of a mature seeker stag is a trophy which most hunters appreciate highly. As soon as the hunters are into the high seat, they carefully scan the area to see if any deer is out in the open.
You can see the water very well, just down through here where they're buffaloes.
Dog is sleeping like a fox.
She just doesn't move. She just goes to sleep. She's a very good little dog.
Even if the pheasant is working.
Oh, and the deer can come right by. And she doesn't. And when you shoot, she just stays.
Jane's dog is well trained, and it will lie down quietly until told otherwise.
Stags usually come in the bottom corner, and they go to the wall over there, and then they go very on the edge along. Or over here by that beech tree, they come in and then come through the middle of the bracken here. Okay, so we need to watch those areas. If you see the stags come in towards the wallow, don't make any moves at all. Let them go to the wallow, and then when they come out, they will settle down and they'll be quieter. Let them come right out, so we can make sure that it's the right stag before we shoot it. And you have to move very slowly because they're very alert. Okay. And if you see hinds, don't move. Just let them go by. And the big stags are the first to whistle, and they usually whistle 3 times. And as it goes into the rut, their voice gets deeper, and there's a groan on the end of each whistle. And sometimes you even hear them just mewing. It's rather like the red deer. They really coming just 1 or 2 from an area, and the small stags can never do that. They have to be at least 3 years old before you get that sound.
While Jane is explaining the differences between the sound from stags of different ages, a hind appears below the high seat.
It's just a young hind, no calf, probably just a 2-year-old.
While the hunter's attention is directed towards the hind, an old stag appears at the edge of the forest. For quite a while before it steps out into the open, the stag watches for any sign of danger.
Already, but I'll tell you which one in a minute. Okay.
To Jane's astonishment, this is not the stag that normally defends this territory. Although the chance is quite good, she wants to be absolutely certain that the trophy is of gold medal class before she tells Torben to take him. The bullet was perfect, high on the shoulder. This stag will be easy to find.
That's good. That's a good stag, very good stag.
Just for practice, Jane tells the dog to seek the animal.
Excellent. Fine, it's got extra on here.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful stag.
Mm-hmm. That's nice.
Yeah.
Do you think it's silver or gold or?
I would say it's a gold.
Mm.
Inspecting the animal closely, Jane feels certain that the trophy qualifies for a gold medal.
Almost the same.
Oh, yes, it is.
It is
Yeah, it is
almost
the
the
same.
same.
Yeah. And this one is shorter than this one.
Yes.
Little. These are good, the
Yes.
same. And then had a little to take off on this one. But a good gold medal.
Yeah.
Well done. Well done. And very good shooting as well. Very good. Excellent.
Først tillykke med din Sika, Tor. Det er en rigtig
The precise amount of points, however, can only be determined by the trophy measurer back home in Denmark, taxidermist Flemming Jensen.
Det er symmetri, at den har alle sprosserne forholdsvis intakt, og de er forholdsvis lige store. Og udlægget betyder også ret meget. Udlægget scorer rent det indvendige udlæg. Det kan man spørge sig selv, hvorfor det er sådan, men det har man nu engang vedtaget. Det skal tages på selve hovedstangen, altså ikke heroppe i toppen, men herinde mellem anden og tredje sprosse. Så skal vi have målt stanglængden.
Fleming describes the way the Sika trophies are measured. The most important aspect is that both sides are as similar as possible. Any differences between the antlers will be deducted at the end from the total score.
58,8. Og differencen, den bliver simpelthen skrevet ud i en kolonne for sig og bliver trukket fra til allersidst.
Ja, det gælder simpelthen om, at den er så symmetrisk som muligt.
Ja, så skal vi have øjensprosserne. Og de bliver så målt fra kanten af kransen og ud til det yderste punkt. Igen her tager du differencen. Det den ene er længere end den anden. Det bliver til sidst trukket rent fra. Sådan. Vi mangler at måle den tredje sprosse her. Den bliver målt på bagsiden. Og igen bliver den målt på det punkt, hvor den starter på stangen. Ja, de er så næsten lige lange. Der er kun 0,8 cm forskel på de to. Så mangler vi tykkelsesmål. Og der bliver den målt her og her på begge stænger, og differencen bliver også ført ud. Så skal vi så bare have talt kolonnerne sammen. Ja. Og det bliver lige fat i min regnemaskine til. 11,9 point får den i strafpoint eller ren difference. 278 får den for stanglængde på begge sider. De forskellige tal lagt sammen og udlægget, og så kommer strafpointene.
Torben's dream came true. With a total score of 266.3 points, his Seeker stag scores well into a gold medal head.
Det er en god guld.
Sgu en rigtig god guldmedalje. Tillykke med den, Torben.
Most hunters find great satisfaction in testing their skills in the terrain. The more difficult the animal is to hunt, the greater the satisfaction when you succeed. Bagging a mature Seeker stag is quite a challenge for most hunters. Getting a set of Seeker antlers on the trophy wall takes knowledge of the game, patience, concentration, good shooting skills, and the ability to walk soundlessly through the terrain. If this challenge is not sufficient, one can go to England and make a try for some of the best Seeker heads in Europe. Many have tried, few succeed, but all return with good memories of a great hunting experience.